Hi folks, Six Slices here. This is the open tag that Gary, the last ranger, put up, and he was asking us to show the top 3 knives that we carried during the second quarter of 2023. So that's April, May and June. Now, for all of that time and a bit either side, I was in hospital, as Gary is now. So the carrying of knives in hospitals is a bit frowned upon. So my most carried knife, without a doubt, through that period was this, which is a rocker knife. I actually did a video about this while I was in the hospital because it was all I could do. But I did actually always have a knife in my drawer in my locker in the hospital, and so I'll show you what I actually carried. Set this one as, we'll not count this one as one of the three. The main thing I carried was this little pouch that has a little brass Olight i3, I think it's called. This is just a AAA battery light with a little lanyard on it that I tied. I haven't tried tying one of these since my recent exploits. I'd like to think I can still do it, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a Fisher Space pen in brass, and then I don't really have any brass. Well, I do have a brass knife, but it's a lock knife. So I put one that at least has a sort of traditional look to it, even if it's not. This one actually, the lamb's foot has steel liners. I should probably have got one, picked one that had brass liners, just to complete the look. Now, so this is the knife that I had for my entire period in hospital, in my locker. It's a Taylor's Eyewitness lamb's foot in desert ironwood. So one of my favourites, one of my favourite patterns as well. I mean, I do like their Barlows, but I think the lamb's foot is probably the most practical blade for everyday use. And so I rather like this knife, and I carried it, and I used it for things like cutting up fruit, particularly opening sealed packets of everything, because with really only one functioning hand, it's very difficult to even open a packet of biscuits without something to help you. So this is what I used to help me. So that is number one of the things that I carried most in that second quarter. Now the other thing is, though, in the back of this, I also have this little Falkneven. Now this is a tiny little baby knife, which one would like to think wouldn't upset anybody in a hospital even, but because it's a lockback, so it's officially a weapon of mass destruction, and we should probably be sending in the army to disarm me. But nobody seemed to bother. Everybody seemed quite happy. And this one is, as I say, sufficiently small scale that it's never going to upset anyone. But I like these. This is one of they're made by Moki for Falkneven in Japan. You can see this well carried and well used because its blade is filthy. Should really have cleaned it, but I haven't. It's a Sanmai, maybe 3G steel, but it's definitely a Sanmai construction, made in Japan, in Seki City, by Moki for Falkneven. Fully ambidextrous, and just a nice little knife to carry, as it's very small, so it shouldn't really cause anybody any offence. Inevitably, of course, this is Britain, so people are going to get offended no matter what you have. And then I carried 2 other knives one initially, and then I dropped it because I just didn't get on with it, and that was this. This is the Tactile Turn or Tactile Knives Bexar, Bexar, which is, I believe, properly pronounced Bexar as opposed to bear or Bexar. It's a Spanish word. Now, anyway, I carried this and I wanted to like it. I wanted to love it, but I just didn't. I have a number of things that sort of annoy me about it. One is that the fit and finish is just not really there for a knife of this price, and I also find the action very, very stiff. Okay, it's thin, which is nice to carry, but even the centering's not brilliant. So I started carrying this at the beginning of the quarter, but it kind of fell out of favour. Plus, I found it really difficult to open. These nail nicks are just too small, so I end up using my teeth to open it. Anyway, so that fell by the wayside. And also, what kind of killed it was that I was sent some knives by QSP to review, and they sent me this one, which is the Hedgehog. And I immediately took to this knife. Now I know it's a freebie, so maybe that colours my view of it, but they sent me two knives. This was the one that I really took to. The other one I was less so. Plus, I've always been a fan of QSP knives. I bought a few of their knives in the past. I found them very, very good tools to use. What I liked about this one, I quite like the golden carbon covers, which are quite nice. But also, even with my newly weakened hands, I can open this with a pinch grip because it's a hollow ground blade. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that in there. So you can see the light move across it, but it's quite a deep hollow ground blade. It also, though, it is the sort of sheep's foot blade. One could call it a razor, but I think it's really just a sheep's foot blade, although this corner is quite steep here. So it's a less threatening knife. I mean, you couldn't stab anybody with it, but it does have enough of a point to use for sort of draw cuts and things like that. Also, like the Falkneven, it's fully symmetrical. The Falkneven has a nail nick on both sides. This has a sort of fuller on both sides, and that makes it nice for somebody who has my sorts of issues to handle. I'm right-handed, but my right hand is a bit paralysed, so I often use my left hand, but then sometimes I like to use my right hand if I want a bit more precision, which is an odd thing, but it's life. So anyway, these ended up as the three most carried in the last quarter. Certainly while I was in hospital. I did also, I got home for home visits, and when I was, so these are not the top three because I wasn't home for much of the period. I got to come home at weekends. I think I had 3 weekend passes. So I carried this, my little Dragonfly, which, it's just such a useful little knife around the house. And the other one I carried was this Behemoth. And just because it's just a bit of fun. I mean, it's a huge, big thing. The blade is far too thick. It's far too heavy. This is the Midgard's Messer, Little Viking. I hate to think how big the the full-size Viking is. This is just a little, but I carry this quite a lot just because it's, like I say, it's a bit of fun. It's not really desperately practical, but it works. And funnily enough, when my son was doing something for me the other day, he needed to a knife just to cut a bit of tape, and when he came over to my desk, this is the one that he picked up. So again, I think it's just that sort of fun thing. Now it doesn't count in this top 3 because, as I say, I wasn't home for all that period, but when I was at home, this is what I was carrying, this and or the Dragonfly. So there we go, 3 knives, the open tag. And Gary, let me say, I hope you get well soon and get yourself out of hospital. I don't actually know what's the matter with you or what your prognosis is, but yeah, I hope you're not in hospital too long, and you get back to full strength, full fitness as soon as possible. Okay, cheers, thanks, bye.